Hello, this is Tony Blazer back with another video for the Motocross Vault. And what this is going to be is a kind of a little mini mix-up of some videos I shot back at the Atlanta Supercross in 2014. Over the years, I've been real lucky to get to go to several events thanks to my affiliation with Pulp MX, the website I write for with Steve Mathis. And he has been awesome in getting me pit passes and press passes for several events. And in 2014, I was lucky enough to get to go down to the stadium floor while Kevin Windham was doing some of his practice for his transfers. If you're not familiar, back after Kevin retired, he was doing, actually when he was still racing, but even after he retired, he was doing some transfers. He would go and take certain sections of the track and then kind of link them together in this massive jump. And it was pretty amazing to watch him do that. And I was lucky enough that year to actually be able to be right down there on the track when he was doing it. I also shot some footage of Steve when he was doing some interviews later in the pits as well. And I just thought it'd be kind of cool to put all these together and then have you all check it out. The video was shot with my iPhone, so it was probably, I don't know, this is an iPhone 7 or 6 or whatever back then. So the video is not 4K or not phenomenal or anything, but it's pretty cool too. I definitely have a good view of the action. I just wish I'd had a better camera shooting it. But in any case, hope you like it. And here it is, just a mix-up of some of the video I shot back there at Atlanta in 2014. Alright, so here I am early in the pits here. One of the coolest things, if you've never been to a Supercross, is to check out the pits. And Atlanta is a really cool environment because the pits are actually indoors. It's in the convention center next door to the Georgia Dome, although I have not been since they moved to the new stadium. I'm not sure if it's still there, but back then it was always in the convention center, and that thing is huge. And it was always cool to get to go in there early. That's one of the neat things about getting a press pass. I could go in and check the place out here a little bit before everybody else is in there, because during the day this place is an absolute zoo. Here we have the BTO team. This is Andrew Short's bike. Kind of walking around here just scoping the place out. I usually go to all the trucks, say hi to some riders, check everything out, get a look at the bikes before it gets too crazy in there, because once you actually get the people inside, it gets pretty crazy, as I said, and gets very crowded. Now here's the stadium. Back then, at least, it wasn't too bad to get on the track. I know the last couple of years I think they've cracked down on letting people on the track, but I was lucky enough here in 2014 to actually make it out onto the track. And if you've never done that as well, it's really an eye-opening experience. You know, I raced motocross for like 30 years, but I never raced any Supercross, certainly. And to actually see these obstacles up front and up close and see just how huge the whoops are and how far some of those jumps are, it's really like, holy crap. Even just the finish line jump is like a wall you can barely walk up. And even watching it here on video, again, it doesn't really give you any kind of idea of the perspective. I remember kind of walking out there during track walk and listening to the guys talking, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, there's no way they're going to jump this out of a corner with no run, but they do. It's pretty amazing. And like I said, those jumps are just friggin', they're like walls. It's so intimidating, and it's really if you ever have the opportunity to do like the BTO fan experience or Chad Reed's fan experience, something like that, I would highly recommend it. The first year I actually got to do this was with BTO. I went in, I think, 2012. I did their BTO fan experience. Here we have Kevin. Here, I'll be quiet here for a second while I'll let Kevin take a quick little sight lap on the track. Now, as I said, it's pretty eye-opening to watch somebody jump these jumps up close and personal. Seeing Kevin hook that little crossover across the start, which looked just impossible to me. He makes it look so easy. It's amazing. And he obviously is an incredibly skilled guy. And at this point, I wasn't sure exactly what he was going to use as a transfer, because clearly what he's doing is jumping sections that weren't meant to be linked together. And it was really just neat to kind of sit here and watch him kind of eyeball the stuff and get a feel for you know, what he was going to do. And as I said, I wasn't sure. It was really just a neat experience. And I wish we still had somebody doing this. It was definitely a cool thing he was doing there for a while. So look at that jump. That jump is just crazy. It's like you just hang in the air, and from the stands it looks impressive, but down there at ground level it's even more so. You can actually feel the ground move when they land off those triples and stuff. It's pretty crazy. Now there's Jason Thomas. You can see here he's actually going to jump from one little section near the finish line, Actually, no, it's down here straight on. It's this section right dead in front of us here. He's going to huck that thing to the left and jump over there next to that Monster Energy, next to the podium, I think is what it is, actually. It was pretty amazing to watch it. Let's see here. Oh, there he goes. Here he goes. Whoop! Burp. And he jumps that thing. I was like, holy Christ. Pretty crazy. And actually, that's probably one of the more mild ones he did. I know, I think he busted one insane one at Las Vegas one year that looked like it was just crazy. Kevin's just a really amazing guy to watch on a bike, and so skilled and so beautiful in motion and stuff. I was kind of bummed out when he retired here. I think this was maybe the year he retired, early in the year. He rode 1 or 2 rounds and then retired. So I think he was still fresh off the scene at this point. He went around and still did some exhibition stuff, but that was pretty much it. Alright, I think he's going to jump it at least one more time here, if I remember right. He comes around and gives another whirl. Here we go. And then he huck it again. Man, dude is crazy. Kevin, like I said, was an amazingly talented guy, and it was fun watching him do this stuff for sure. This race itself was, if I remember right, I think... does it one more time here. I think this was won by Ken Roxon. Kenny was moving up to the 450 class. This might have been the first year he moved up. Like I said, what's funny is I remember stuff from 1990 and 1991 like it was yesterday. That stuff's fresh in my mind, but I can't keep track whether something happened in 2014 or 15 or 13. Is all the newer stuff kind of blurs together, which is probably something to do with my brain. Now after this bit here with Kevin in practice, we get a little clip I shot of the dearly departed PulpMX pre-race podcast. I love this thing that Steve used to do where they talk about the race coming up, and this one here I think is Steve and Weege and maybe Chase Stallo. I met him there at that one race, but I'm not positive on that, so I apologize if it's not. But I love these. I was bummed out that Steve stopped doing them. I used to love listening to him. I work on Saturdays for my job, so I'd always go and listen to him on the way home before the race, which is pretty cool. Now here was some footage from practice. I loved the Georgia Dome. Like I said, I haven't had the chance to go to the new stadium yet. Work has precluded me from going the last couple of years, but I love the press box here. It was open air. I've been to a couple other stadiums, the press box like at Las Vegas or New Jersey, and it's closed off with glass. So you don't get the sound of the bikes. You don't have that same immediacy that makes it feel like you're there. And Atlanta's great for that. Ooh, that looked painful. And this is a great view. You know, usually there's a great oh boy, front and high. There's a section right in front of where you're at that's usually pretty entertaining. This was not my favorite year. There was another section here that had like a dragon's back in front of us. It might have been 15. I'm trying to remember, but that was a pretty cool section to have right in front of us. We got to watch some pretty spectacular get-offs there. But having the triple right there in front of us was pretty good. It was, this track, if I remember right, wasn't maybe my favorite year at Atlanta, but it was still pretty entertaining. Anytime you go to a Supercross race, it's a good time. And the dirt's usually pretty great at Atlanta, so... getting to watch practice is always fun. It's cool to see what's going on with guys, what they're going to try and bust out later for the main events, and get a good sense of just how hard the sport is. You see guys out here in the C practice that look like they're spodes half the time, but then if they were on the track with me or somebody of mortal speed, they'd just be whooping your ass. So it's easy to poke fun at somebody when they're carrying the front end high or whiskey throttling in the whoops. But the reality of the situation is these guys are all just elite athletes, and like I said, if you've never been to a Supercross race, go. It's worth seeing it in person. It totally changes your perspective on just how skilled these guys are on a motorcycle. It's really cool to watch. Like the guy went single-double over that double. Man, of course, I'm 50 now. I would not be inclined to do this. But even when I was racing all the time, even a double like that would have intimidated me. I was never one to go for a big jump. If I was going to go for something, I'd follow somebody up it and let them kind of suck me over it, pace myself. I was never the first guy to jump anything or stuff. So, seeing how great these guys are on the motorcycle is just really impressive, for sure. And seeing it in person really gives you a totally different perspective on just how hard it is and just how intimidating these obstacles really are. Alright, so here we are in the night show, and this is Kevin Windham taking a parade lap here for everybody. He would take a parade lap here, kind of, I don't remember if he was actually talking about the track as he did it. I think that was something that Nick Way was doing maybe a year or two after this. But it's still cool going to see. I miss the parade laps. I don't think they even do them so much anymore. Like I said, I haven't been to a Supercross in a couple of years now. But in the old days, you'd have, McGrath and Carmichael and these guys, doing a whole lap, busting out crazy whips. I remember watching Reed and Carmichael in their heyday doing it. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it's kind of bummed out that I think some of the riders got tired of that. I mean, when Dungy would do it, he would just, like, I don't know, spode around, but it didn't look like he was happy to be doing it. So it's cool to see somebody who was in it and actually throw some whips and stuff here. I think Kevin takes a parade lap, but if I'm right, then he does his transition after this. Let's see what happens. He takes his lap done. All right, so I think this is the transition, if I remember right. Yeah, because it's at the opposite end of the start. He kind of hits this that big crossover across the track, I think, is what he uses as the transfer. Yep, here we go. Sizing it up. Yep, there you go. Perfect. Awesome. Definitely a good showman, that Kevin Windham. Love that guy. All right, here we have a few interviews. Steve was nice enough to let me kind of tag along with him after the mains. So he made his rounds doing his pulp race interviews, and I just took a little video here. Originally, I was doing this because I was posting this stuff on Instagram, and I just wanted to have a little bit of some stuff to remember here. That was Andrew Short. This is Brock Tickle, who hopefully will be back next year, I think, after his terribly stupid suspension. This one he was riding for RCH, I think, this year. RCH Suzuki here for Saquon, I'm pretty sure. Kenny Roxon here. Kenny was the winner of the main event, if I remember right, on his KTM. He was obviously just making the transition from 250F to 450 this year. There's his mechanic, I think, behind him. Pretty cool kid. He's really awesome. Every time I've talked to him, he's been super friendly and really nice guy. And after the stuff he's gone through the last couple of years, I certainly hope in 2019 we'll see him back up to full speed again, which would just be awesome. All right, this last interview here is obviously of a very young-looking Adam Cianciarulo. I think this is his rookie year, and I believe he won this race, actually, if I remember right. Adam has probably shot up 5 or 6 inches since this interview, and you can see in this photo he's much younger looking, very baby-faced. Looks 10 years younger than he does now. And I am so happy for Adam. He had a tough run here. Obviously had so much pressure on him coming out of the amateurs, and he really has kind of turned things around this last year when he's come out and won that national title. So super pumped for him, and I hope he has huge success in 2020. Now, finishing out this video, I'm just going to show a few random photos I took. Again, taken with my iPhone. They're not taken with a huge high-quality DSLR, so take it with a grain of salt here. One of the things that is fun about going to Atlanta is the DMXS pre-party, and I went this year in 2014, had a great time. Although I will say, for me personally, I go there and I don't really know very many people. You know, there's a few people within the industry I know, but there are so many other people kind of crammed into that room, have a couple of drinks, and I run into Kevin Kelly or Weege or something for 5 seconds, and they're off talking to somebody else. So fortunately, I do a lot of standing around, milling around, talking to people I don't know, but good time for sure. If you ever have a chance, go check it out. This is a copy of my press pass, which was awesome. Thank you very much, Steve, for hooking me up with that. Always very honored to get to do that anytime he allows me to do so. Here are a few more random photos. This is my view from the press box with my mobile Twitter command center. Twitter is one of my favorite things to do. Live tweeting the events, getting to correspond with people online. Super fun. I always try to keep it light, crack a little jokes, have a good time. So thank you to all those people out there that follow me on Twitter and make the race even more fun every weekend. Now here's James Stewart's bike in the pits. I don't think he was racing this year. I don't remember why. He may have had a concussion or something. But for some reason, I don't remember him in this event. But again, my memory might be faulty. I'm pretty sure though he was just his bike this year. Here we have Brock Tickle's bike. He was racing this year for I think as I said, the RCH team. Yeah, here's RCH Dodge Saquon. It's so sad when you see how many big name sponsors RCH had on there. I mean, Dodge trucks, for God's sakes, and that's a casino and. They seem like such a powerhouse team with Kerry Hart and Ricky Carmichael, and then you see them just gone like in the blink of an eye. And when you see that happen in the sport, it's pretty sobering that you think such a high-powered team with so much star power behind it could just go completely belly up so fast. Hell, I think the year after they won the national title they did. So pretty scary stuff to be sure. Here we have a random Berluti sighting. Love Tony Berluti. Berluti's awesome. Here we have Kenny Roxon's factory KTM. It's funny. When these came out, this body style, I thought it was awesome, but of course now it looks kind of dated. The side panels look a little weird and stuff, but and this thing has a lot more white in it too. They don't seem to have as much white in there these days, but good looking motorcycle still. And Kenny was definitely on it this year on that thing. I think if I remember, did he? I think he came out and won the first race maybe on it. Anyways, it's hard to remember. Like I said, all these years kind of fade together for me. But in any case, maybe he'll finally get that title in 2020. We also have Ryan Dungey's bike. I was always a Ryan Dungey guy. He was definitely my favorite rider when he was out there on top. The arch nemesis of Ryan Villapoto. I was always pulling for Dungey, even though I know a lot of people think he was kind of milquetoast and boring. Here we have a picture I took of actually Georgia Albertson and Jimmy Albertson. I was so bummed out to hear they broke up. I mean, it happens to the best of us, Lord knows. I think Georgia just got this new dog, if I remember right. I was chatting with her about this. They seem like such an awesome couple, and like I said, it's kind of a bummer, but you know, oh well, things happen, people grow apart and what have you. Next, we have a photo of Justin Bogle, Steve interviewing him after the race. I think he was with Geico at this point. Yeah, Geico Honda. Here's also Will Hahn, who was with Geico Honda this year. Weege talking to him, and Steve getting an interview. I think Will had a pretty good year this year. Here's a photo of Ivan Tedesco's bike on the Rockstar KTM team, which I don't remember him ever riding for. After he retired, he did a couple of stints. I remember him riding for the H&H team, but I honestly don't remember him on this KTM, but I guess it happened. Here's the photo proof of that. Steve interviewing him as well. Next, we have Eli Tomac's Geico Honda. It's funny people talk about Eli being a Supercross champion, foregone conclusion, but I kind of remember him kind of struggling on this thing when he first moved up. He certainly wasn't setting the world on fire on this thing. I think he was really fast outdoors. This might be the year he came out and just smoked everybody the first couple of rounds before he jacked his shoulders up. But in Supercross, I just don't remember him being omnipotent that year. Here we have Will Wilbur, Little Will's Geico bike, and like I said, I think he had a pretty good season this year. And maybe this is after this, I think he went to Factory Kawasaki and then crashed at the season opener, which was a bummer deal, and unfortunately one that Will repeated over and over the course of his career. Here we have the JGR Yamaha of Justin Brayton. I always hated the looks of these things. These 2010 to, I guess, 2014 YZF 450s are some of the ugliest motorcycles ever built, in my opinion. Even the current ones aren't that great looking, and to me at least. I think the side panel design, this whole reverse motor deal is just kind of weird, and the bikes perform really well now, but looks-wise, not my favorite. Here's Josh Grant, I guess, is who this is. Next, we have a photo of Steve interviewing Andrew Short. Andrew Short. This was the picture I shot during the video clip earlier. Here we have Trey Kennard's bike. Trey's one of those guys that I think a lot of people, myself included, thought would be a Supercross champion, and it just never came together for him. Always had the speed, but crashed too much. This bike, not my favorite. I didn't like this body style, to be honest. This generation CRF was kind of... to me, that whole rear section is kind of funky looking. Never a giant fan of the dual exhaust. Makes the rear end look fat to me. But anyway, definitely not a terrible bike, but not my favorite. Here's Adam's bike running the red plate. Like I said, he came out guns blazing this year in Supercross at least, and really was kicking everybody's ass until he hurt his shoulder, maybe in Toronto. I think it was one of those Canadian rounds that he crashed out of. Like I said, all this recent stuff kind of blurs together, but I think it was the night that maybe Stu was doing that crazy quad, and I think, if I remember right, he popped his shoulder out, and it looked early on, though, like he might run away with this title. Here we have Chad Reed's bike. Love Chad. Chad's one of my all-time favorite riders, and this whole 2-2 thing from the Hondas to the Kawasaki's was always awesome. Every one of his bikes was just one of the best-looking ones on the track, and in general, I'm not a huge Kawasaki fan. I've had them over the years, but never been my favorite machines. But this bike just looks badass. The black frame and the graphics, and him and Ozzy, they killed it with this stuff. And I was so bummed out when he wasn't able to ever put it together as a privateer. It seemed like always something happened to the guy when you thought he was going to light it on fire. It just didn't work out. Here we have Blake Baggett's machine. I don't really remember much about Blake on this thing. I don't think he set the world on fire in these years on the pro circuit team. He had won that national title, and then it was always kind of rocky thing. Same old thing with Blake. He'd be fast and then crash and hurt himself and be out for a few rounds and, rinse, repeat. Here we have Ryan Villapoto's bike. RV was the arch nemesis of Dungy, so I was definitely out on RV all these years. I couldn't stand him. I famously would tweet, anybody but RV. Just get tired of the same guy winning all the time. But it's funny now. I love this guy. He's totally transformed himself as after retirement, and now he's like one of the best dudes to follow on social media. And anytime he does an appearance on Pulp or something, it's awesome. So definitely a pro Ryan Villapoto now. Here we have Davey Millsap's Rockstar KTM. This must be the infamous year where there's all these rumors running around about what was going on with him. He just refused to ride KTM's. He'd had the great year the year before on the Suzuki and led the title. And then I think he got his knees fixed in the off season. In one of these years, he had these crazy knee problems, and he ended up never actually racing that thing. The only thing I ever saw him on was the cover of Racer X. Here we have Andrew Short's machine. As I said, I got to spend some time 2 years before this. I think it was 12. I went and spent the day with the BTO team, and then I did it again in I think 2015. Whatever the first year when New Jersey came back on the circuit, I spent the day with the BTO team, and they're awesome. You got to actually get to hang out in the rig and go up in the press box, and if you're not lucky enough to get a press pass like myself through Pulp MX, it's a way to actually have that kind of experience, hang out with JT, who's awesome, and definitely, as I said earlier, it's worth spending the money to do it. It's fairly expensive, but I'm telling you, it's money well spent. It's almost like a once in a lifetime kind of deal. If you're a super fan like myself, it doesn't get any better than hanging out with your heroes and kind of seeing the track at ground level, and just the whole day is just, it's like going to Disney World as an adult. And here is what the stadium the pits look like at about 1 a.m. when I was rolling out. I stayed after all the pulpcasts, everybody's rolling out, and got a shot here as I was leaving. So, in any case, hope you all enjoyed this look back at the 2014 Supercross from my perspective. If you do, let me know. Maybe I'll dig up some more footage and photos I have from other races I've attended, and do a little commentary on it as well. So, in any case, until we meet again, keep the rubber side down. Peace.